Can you hear me, Charles? No, perfect,
We've
man.
had some electrical issues today.
Weather?
Electrical.
Oh, I got you. So we had
There it is.
we had 70-degree weather on Saturday, and then 20 and had about an inch of snow on the ground this morning.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. So Saturday, I'm seeing if I can find it here. Saturday, we'll just wait for a few people to stream in. See if I can get that thing up there. Saturday, I got to take this bad boy out.
Oh, look at that.
My little 79 MG midget.
That's funny.
Yeah, I think it goes 50 miles an hour downhill. It's like 48 horsepower.
Wow.
Yeah.
I bet it's easy to find a parking spot, though.
It is, man. But it's easy for cars to hit you, too, because they don't see you parked behind other cars.
I can imagine.
Yeah, let's see. Let me just get on, get over to my other feed here.
Twitch, right? You going on Twitch? Isn't that the gamer one?
That's the gamer one, but we're talking about going on there. We're talking about going on, launching it on Twitter and a few other ones too.
There you go.
So yeah, it's good. So we got some people streaming in, 11 people so far. I figured we just kind of chat since this market is all discombobulated, trying to figure things out right now. So everybody, welcome. Charles De La Torre, Ashley Buckholt, Cutting Edge. We talk about everything lumber in the Southeast, other locations. We talk about maybe mismatches where some species, grade, item, length, or width can be redesigned, or Charles can basically take them into his design studio and make something of some real value that people don't see. Which, man, Charles, there's been some great opportunities over the last few months to take items that people take for granted and turn them into something that's basically wood and gold, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah. Specifically 2x4 10-foot studs and 8-foot studs.
Yeah.
Seems like nobody can find them anywhere.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And look at so we've got a couple of them. It seems like when they come up, you and I and Riley have even talked about them. They're hard to. Riley was telling he was selling out till end of April on some of them right now. For two reasons. One, because some of his cars were late coming, but because the numbers just keep bumping. We had some listed in Indiana on the platform. We'll probably have them up again today. Some dry Doug fir, 116 and 5/8 prompt on the ground up there. So if anybody's looking for that, we've got prompt 116 and 5/8 2 and better dry Doug fir on the ground up here through one of our sellers.
No, we don't deal in Doug fir very much. What do they want for it? Just out of curiosity.
I knew what they wanted on Friday. I'll take you offline afterwards and tell you what it is, because maybe that's something that works, if that makes sense. It was relatively the same as spruce,
really?
except it was prompt, right? Which, man, when I hear what people are selling at for the end of April, it was $200 below that for prompt wood.
Yeah, we haven't gotten very many inquiries outside of the end of March. If Riley's able to sell elevated numbers through April, that kind of scares me, to be honest.
I mean, look at people are looking for the items, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, and I guess they're being extremely patient, or I don't know what the alternative is, but that's scary, because that's a full 6, 7, 8 weeks out.
Yeah,
that's insane.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought they were big numbers. So let's just talk a little bit, go through the market. Last time we talked last week, I can tell you what I'm seeing on the platform. I'm seeing more pine show up from mills and from distributors, which I haven't seen in a while, especially 4-inch. So you deal in that a lot more than me. Why am I seeing more of that showing up right now?
Probably because inventories are a little larger than anticipated. The takeaway over the past couple of weeks on the mill level has slowed down precipitously
Okay.
as we kind of progress through whatever this is, right? The biggest thing I can say is that our takeaway on Southern Yellow Pine is nowhere near what it is in spruce as far as people's openness or desire to put on orders 6, 7, 8 weeks out. I think a lot of that has to do with, once again, what we touched about last week on your demographic and your shipping radiuses. So I don't know, and that's kind of what we're seeing, and I think too, big truss guys. When this thing took off in November, big truss guys kind of were meddling in the madness. But then when it came to the end of December, 1st of January, everybody thought, oh, well, over the holidays, a bunch of wood will show up, first part of January. Well, there was some wood that showed up and it evaporated literally into thin air, and then it was off to the races. And I think they showed up a little bit late, and it kind of carried through January and February. I mean, you look at the head fake we had at the end of January. I mean, that was completely derived off of 2x6 and 2x4.
Yeah.
And it went from, $150, $200 premiums to print, and then to print, and then some discounts depending on the volume and your timetable, to another $150 in 6 days.
So I saw a few items in 4-inch, like especially 10 footers print down last week. And I saw some items like 12-inch. It just shows how disconnected our market is when something prints up 100 or down, right? It's because of the deals mills cut with certain brokers and distributors, right? And who knows where it actually trades at, but it's the best it can do. But why did we see some 4-inch coming down and slowing the rate of change going up, and then things like 12-inch going up so high on pine?
Log supply.
Okay.
Log supply is a big issue this time of year, and bigger the wider. The wides always come out of bigger logs, and you can cut 2x4s and 2x6s out of a 7, 8-inch butt chip and saw log. You can't cut a 2x12 out of it. Not to mention, you've got an I-joist shortage where everybody's transitioning to a 2x12. So that's the other key component to take into consideration.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I had a couple of questions here. Bob Schneider from Summit Supply Chain in Colorado. Good to see you. Somebody asking me, Middle Tennessee here, looking to build a barn for my animals. I think you asked us this a year ago too. Maybe it's a different person. Do I wait for the price to settle? I'm thinking oil will impact transportation overall costs. Any insights appreciated? So I can tell you this. My brother-in-law is building a barn, and he's actually got it built, and he's been waiting to buy OSB for it now for a year. Right. And look, at the reason I'm saying this is I saw him 2 or 3 months ago, and I said, hey, maybe it's a good time to buy OSB now, and never did. Now he went to look at it last week, and it's back up to numbers that it was almost a year ago. So I guess my question is, if you want to build something between now and April or May, I don't see a lot of pullback in pricing, but I could be way wrong on that, right? Because by the time it gets to you, if you're buying at the retail level, it's a little less elastic, right? So I don't know. You take a stab at that one, Charles. I always hate giving people, because whatever I say is going to be the exact opposite of what happens.
Well, if you're building one barn, I just buy it. Because if you get a 20% material savings, what are you going to save? $1,400. So
yeah. Exactly.
I don't know.
The only thing I can tell you is maybe shop outside of your local area to see if there's a better deal somewhere else.
Or buy a whole kit from an actual building distribution company versus Lowe's or Home Depot.
You know what? That's not a bad idea, because I saw a kit for building garden planters with treated lumber on it. And so I had to right away, it was on Wayfair the other day. I had to back into the lumber in it. So the lumber in it is a huge discount to what it's currently trading at, right? So Charles, you probably are straight on. If you can buy the barn already, a lot of that pricing may not have made it through yet, and you actually get the best of both worlds. You have somebody assemble it for you, and you maybe get some better pricing on it. So that's a good thing. OSB, you and I talked about that last week. Still the biggest traded item on our platform, going all over the place. I told you we matched some stuff from New Jersey all the way over to Idaho the other day, and stuff still moving all over the place. Yeah, and it just shows how there's some spots in the U.S. that are lacking. Some spots have it because the people selling it are sometimes retailers with contracts in the north, in the southeast, and in the northeast, and it's going west. It's going to fill in those holes that where you run into Western Canadian production where there's not as much out there, or into the Southwest where there's not any production, right? But meantime, it's passing every production facility all through the U.S. But it just shows where we're at in the market right now. You mentioned that you may have seen a few extra things coming on as far as OSB. Has anything changed there?
Well, yeah, no. I mean, we have heard whispers of people offering open market wood, and I mean, if there's an opportunity to take advantage of it, I'd do it. But there's nothing in volume, and I think the reason you mentioned passing multiple production facilities get it from point A to point B. Yeah. And it only matters if they have anything to sell. If they don't have anything to sell, or they're about to do a planned maintenance, or they're having resin issues, or whatever the case may be, it doesn't matter. But once again, I think anything that lines up with Texas going all the way to the Canadian border is an absolute panel black hole. You can't get enough delivered into those markets at all.
Especially the specialty panels, right? Yep. Because we had some specialty panels listed on here, and those move right away because people have a hard time finding those, right? But we're also moving the commodity grade too all over the place, especially the thicker panels. That was the big item that we were matching from people with extra contracts all over last week, was the 2330 seconds TNG. That did not have a rhyme or reason where it went to. People were buying it going every direction.
And the interesting thing about that is it doesn't travel very well.
No.
Because, I mean, you're only getting 19, 20,000 square foot on a truck. So yes. That's intriguing. That shows a tremendous shortage wherever your destination location was, honestly. Because, I mean, your freight difference on a per sheet basis is probably going to be about 30%.
I mean, there were some freights that were $6,000 and $7,000 on a truck.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, if you really want to think about, for all the OSB manufacturers out there watching this, you may want to think about getting on Materials Exchange, because what you'll see as far as where things are moving is something that you can't pay a consultant millions of dollars to find out.
Well, because it opens and closes. I mean, there's no
it's
real time. It's so fluid.
Yeah,
there's no way to get somebody or a consultant or anybody to tell you how to do it.
And so this is the part where we pitch Charles and myself. So Charles and I been talking together for a few years. One thing, if you like our program, which I think we bring a lot of information, please use materialsexchange.com, mxlumber.com, right? I mean, you and I had a good talk last week, Charles, about, I think there's a lot of people, we won't mention any names, that get really good value on our platform and don't do direct business on our platform sometimes. And I understand it, right? Because I grew up in that world. But what I'm asking is, if you like what we do, help support us, at mxlumber.com, and get on and put items, because you don't match something on here, but if you meet somebody on here, I think that's just as important.
Definitely agree with you 110%.
Yeah. And man, Charles, I think we've had a mutual benefit bringing people back and forth to each other, and certainly just the good information that we pass back and forth. Freight-wise, trucking and transportation out of the Pacific Northwest, are out of Canada. I haven't heard of anything really loosening up there. I guess we'll dig a little bit more into that on Wednesday. Greg, Matt, and I have a special guest on that'll talk really about how this problem in the Ukraine may or may not affect things, but he'll also dig into some of the different ways of how lumber is moving around in transportation. But the transportation issue is really rail, and it's really a slowdown of service from what I'm hearing from people all over North America, right? Guys in Texas were telling me last week they have a hard time getting cars pulled in and out of the yards that are just sitting there, right? And it could be because some of these railroads are overwhelmed, but I think that they are dealing with the same human capital issue we're dealing with everywhere in the world right now, right? I mean, driving a locomotive is a specialty, right? And if somebody retires, you don't just go to your local high school or trade school or say, hey, we're looking for a new engineer to run this train, right? I think there's a lot of tough things going on there, and same with trucking. But it'll eventually straighten itself out once we open up the weather here, I'm guessing.
No, I agree with you, but I also think too, the pipeline of talent, and I don't think they anticipated it to age out as quickly. That's the other thing.
Right. There's no doubt about that. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about alternatives. What are you doing at your manufacturing facility? I mean, you were booked out almost 2 months. What's the big pull coming in for you? What's everybody asking for? What are you working on? Industrial, multifamily? What kind of products are you working on right now?
I mean, you're looking at a lot of lumberyard items. You're looking at a lot of multifamily items. It's stuff that you actively can't find in commodity sizes. We're not cutting a lot of specialty right now, but it's also the fear of the repercussions of Ukraine, and what's going to happen with Euro and the lack of supply, or how's that going to affect it, or allocation is going to change. Because typically in Europe, they lock in pricing for an extended period of time with their clientele, versus us where it's a day-to-day grind. So I don't know. I hope Wednesday y'all can shed some light on it to what direction it's going to push or pull. But I think there's still a lot of unknowns.
There's so many unknowns, and I think that's why I don't have an idea on it. I've heard everything from there's 20,000 truckers in Europe that are getting called back to duty for war, right? And so you hear that and you're like, what does that mean? I don't know what that means.
That's a new one. I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, so I heard that the other day, and I'm like, that's something I would have never heard, except I had a user of our platform call and say, hey, don't mention my name, but I wanted to let you know that you remember in Europe, there's truckers from all over, from Poland, from Ukraine, from Belarus, from other places that haul logs and lumber all over Europe, right? So if they're not doing that, that has to have some kind of effect. And they're hauling lumber to the ports, right, to get loaded on vessels. So I don't know how that affects things. I don't know if it is affecting things. I don't know if people have different things in place already to mitigate that, but it'll be interesting talking about that. And so I would have never even thought about that, Charles, until somebody told me.
I have. Yeah,
right?
I mean, I wouldn't either. No, because you would think the sheer volume that goes to these ports for export for the North American market, it would all go rail. But I mean, I guess we utilize both forms of transportation. So I mean, why wouldn't they?
Yeah. I'm sure in some cases it does, but it's always that little bit that goes somewhere. I mean, the other thing I heard is anybody that was buying plywood out of Russia, they're all looking for, the Baltic birches and things like that, the specialties. That's like a no fly zone now, so to speak. No pun intended, right? So, or there's a lot of uncertainty whether it is. So people are going out looking at other type of industrial panel products that were more shop cut up grade stuff for cabinets and all that are starting to look for other places now too. But again, we'll have that on Wednesday. So what do you want to, what's your thought going into Monday here? What have you seen so far? I mean, we've got a lot of stuff listed up here. I see more people listing things, but I also see continued buying. So what do you think going into this week?
I don't know.
That's as good as answer as any. I don't either. Like I said, I was just going through looking at the price changes from last week, calling people, asking people. We've got a lot more items up, but that's also because we onboarded a lot more people in the last 2 weeks. So we should always have more items up as we're talking. But what I'm noticing is the sell side is populating quite a bit more now, and some of the players are different than the ones I've seen over the last 2 months. So that always indicates I see things a little bit quicker sometimes with who's buying and selling.
Definitely.
Well, cool. So it was great. We got 20 minutes out of it today. Thanks for taking the time today. Is that a new color, a new hat you got, or the same one?
No, we've had these.
Okay. I thought they were black and gray on the back.
No, it's black in the back, gray in the front.
They look good.
And then I got a navy blue and white. That was probably the other one you were thinking about.
Yeah, that could have been a one. All right. Well, cool. Hope you guys have a great week, and I'll look forward to chatting with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Yep.